Good morning, Star Wars fanatics, and especially you, Mandalorian fanatics.
Thank goodness you're here. Welcome, guys.
With The Mandalorian Season 3 well underway of shooting and reshoots and catch-up shoots supposed to be happening sometime this month, that means they're about finished with principal photography. But with that said, there are some questions from Seasons 1 and Season 2 that need to be answered. Maybe plot holes, or maybe it just wasn't emphasized on enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about these 3 questions that I have, and then I'll try to explain them as best I can without any kind of official confirmation on these today on Star Wars Fanatic. Before I get started, if you're a fan of Star Wars, Mandalorian lore, the Book of Boba Fett, really anything Star Wars or mainly Mandalorian related, hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications, and give the video a like. Alright, with that out of the way, now on to today's topic. I have 3 big questions about The Mandalorian that really don't sit right with me. I do have some plausible explanations, but I do want to see these get answered officially. Now, if they don't get answered, that's fine. It's not a deal breaker for me. They're just questions that I have regarding the Mandalorian series and some knowledge of different events that have happened throughout the galaxy prior to this event. So, number 1 is, why doesn't Den Jarn, or Mando if you prefer him to call him that, know about Jedi? Now, the covert that Mando belongs to, the Children of the Watch, true, they're in hiding and they only come out one at a time to do bounty hunting, take on different chores to earn money and food and whatever. But when they go out to do their missions, they do frequent places like the Bounty Hunters Guild. And what seems to be the Bounty Hunters Guild on Navarro's headquarters looks like a place where a lot of travelers come in. A lot of people talk, a lot of people hang out, and some of these talks could be overheard. Now, if we're going to say that, well, maybe they didn't talk about it or anything like that, and this could be a sequel trilogy plot hole and not a Mandalorian plot hole, but let's look at it like this. Rey has been living on Jakku for most of her life, at least since she was 5 or 6 years old. But when Luke Skywalker is mentioned to her, she knows exactly who he's talking about, who they're talking about. She knows the legend stories of Luke Skywalker. When she and Finn approach Han Solo, he confirms everything about Luke Skywalker, the Jedi, the Force, all of it, saying it was all true. So it's not just legend stories or hand-me-down fairy tales. And even though Rey has been trapped on Jakku for that long, she does frequent different places that have travelers coming in and out, so she would have heard the stories. The same with Mando, and possibly other Children of the Watch members would have been around people that have talked about stories and legends and how the Death Star exploded and how the Emperor was defeated and how Darth Vader turned to the good or died, or however they talk about it. Luke Skywalker's name should have been brought up. The Force should have been brought up, as it was to Rey. Now, to say that these bounty hunters and these guilds and these travelers didn't talk about it at all, these are huge events that happened in the Star Wars galaxy. They would have been talked about, and why bounty hunting was flourishing at the time that Mando was active. Okay, so let's say they didn't hear the stories of Luke Skywalker or anything like that, but Den Jarn, or Mando, was around during the Clone Wars, where the Jedi were prevalent, where they were leaders in the Clone Wars, where they were generals behind the Republic Army. Okay, so let's say he was secluded from all that, never saw a Jedi, never heard of a Jedi or anything like that. That's plausible. And he was also really young. But the people rescuing him, the people that took him in, would have known about the Jedi. I'm not saying they didn't know about the Jedi, because the Armorer does explain who the Jedi are and explains them as ancient enemies. But at the same time, here's a plausible explanation. Let's say the Armorer does know about Jedi. Well, we don't have to just say that. She does know about Jedi. But at the end of the Clone Wars, the Jedi were mostly wiped out. Maybe the Mandalorians of this covert believed all the Jedi had been wiped out, therefore it's nothing worth teaching to the newer members of the covert. Even though it is a part of the Mandalorian history that Jedi are their enemies, maybe it just seemed that it was no longer relevant to the Mandalorian cause. Possibly. But I'd still like to see them come up with an explanation as to why Den Jarn had never heard of a Jedi, especially with the tales of Luke Skywalker going all around the galaxy. You'd think the Mandalorians would cheer the Jedi because Luke Skywalker did help take down the Empire, the same Empire who destroyed Mandalorian culture. Like I said, it's just something to think about. And now, on to the next one. Number 2. Why wasn't the Darksaber taught as Mandalorian history? The Darksaber was a huge divisive element during the Clone Wars or the Mandalorian Civil War, however you want to look at it. It divided the Mandalorian culture. It divided them into 3 factions, in fact, the pacifists, the Death Watch group, and the true Mandalorians. Now, if you take out the other parts of the Darksaber's history, such as it being created by the first Mandalorian Jedi, Tar Vizsla, then that takes out about, 1,000 years or so of history from the Mandalorian culture. Tar Vizsla ended up being a great Mandalorian leader and turned over his Darksaber to the Jedi once he became the Mandalore, or Mandalorian leader. Now, Death Watch believed that the Darksaber was a right to rule. Whoever had the Darksaber was the new leader of the Mandalorians. And the Children of the Watch are kind of a splinter group of Death Watch, maybe even kind of a daycare for Death Watch. So that Darksaber was a prominent item that would have been involved in the Death Watch history. So why does it seem it takes an Imperial in the form of Moff Gideon to hold the Darksaber and tell Din Jarn the history of the Darksaber and what it means to their society? But like I said, I would try to offer a possible explanation. This is just a theory, so don't take it too heavily. You take it with a grain of salt, throw it over your shoulder, whatever you have to do with it. The embarrassment of what the Empire did to Mandalore by glassing it and dispersing what remained of the Mandalorian society to far reaches of the galaxy was huge to the Mandalorians. It hurt them deeply. How could a force that was not as well trained as Mandalorians, not as well armored, and not as well weaponized as the Mandalorians take the Darksaber away from them? It's an embarrassment. And they're in hiding, so that means they fear the Empire or other authority figures. So that means they may have taken the Darksaber out of their history lessons, because there's a thought that they may not ever get it back. And on top of that, it may not have seemed like pertinent information to give to Mando, because he was just sent out to bounty hunt to make a living for them so they could all survive. Then maybe regroup and talk about the other stuff that comes along with retaking Mandalore if the time ever came. Well, the time is upon them, so now it just looks like an embarrassment that Din Jarn didn't ever learn about that part of Mandalorian history and culture. So I'm sure Din Jarn's going to have a lot of questions for his covert, especially the armorer, who seems to know a lot more than some of the other members. And there's also the feeling that maybe anything the Imperial Army has touched is now worthless to the Mandalorians. Look at the way Paz Vizsla acted when he saw the Beskar from Den Jarn. He tried to reject the Beskar because it had been handled by the Empire, just as he tried to reject Den Jarn. Alright, now on to the last one. Number 3. Bo-Katan knows of the Children of the Watch. We know that because she tells Din Jarn, "You're one of the Children of the Watch." So why does Din Jarn act surprised when he meets other Mandalorians, thinking that possibly his covert are the only Mandalorians left? So how does Bo-Katan know of the Children of the Watch without them knowing about her? Well, possibly she ran into one or two of them, probably one since they only surface one at a time, and had a little scuffle with them maybe, or an argument, or anything like that. And maybe that Mandalorian didn't make it back to the Children of the Watch because maybe Bo-Katan killed him or died in action or something like that. But had there been a scuffle between Bo-Katan and that other member of Children of the Watch, then Bo-Katan wouldn't have acted so nonchalant when she met Din Jarn. She wouldn't have just said, "Oh geez, another one of these guys, these religious zealots, here we go again." Instead, she probably would have been a little more hostile to him instead of trying to trick him into helping her get the Darksaber back or the Imperial cruiser. So that member of Children of the Watch should have made it out of the confrontation or encounter with Bo-Katan. But that's not saying he made it all the way back to the Children of the Watch. It's possible he's a Mandalorian, he knows how to fight, he should have made it back, and possibly told the tale of other Mandalorians being around. And I shouldn't say he, as in the Mandalorian is definitely a male, because it could have been a female. It could have even been the armorer that she ran into, in which case she probably would have recognized the armorer, being that the armorer split from Death Watch and Bo-Katan was once a member of Death Watch. They probably would have had a run-in or two, so I don't think the armorer was the one that ran into Bo-Katan. Okay, so those are 3 things I'd like to see answered in The Mandalorian Season 3 or Season 4 or moving forward in some point, maybe even in the Book of Boba Fett. Let's see how that goes. But I'm not going to be heartbroken if they don't answer these questions. I'll stick with my theories as to what may have happened. You can believe those theories if you like, or you can come up with your own. And I'd love to hear it. If you do come up with your own, leave a comment down below as to what your theories are to these 3 questions. And let's get some conversation going about it. Everybody read everybody's comments and comment on them and respond to them as to what you think it could be, if their theory is wrong or if it's plausible. We do get some good theories in our comments here, so take a look at them. But that's all I have for right now, and if you are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications. Give the video a like, share the video with some friends, and do all that good stuff to help boost this channel up a little bit more. Let's see if we can get up to the 6,000 mark here soon. And as promised, when I hit the 5,000 mark, I will be releasing sometime this week the final piece of my Jango Fett fan fiction that I've been working on. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please go. I do have a playlist set up that you can go watch all 15 parts up to now, and the 16th part will be coming out shortly. But remember, subscribe, like, share, comment. All these things help out. And remember, this is the way, the only way.